I'm Shirley Appleton. Welcome to this training insight. This is a case study, the horse that struggled to canter, and this is part 4. So where are we up to? A bit of a part 3 recap. Well, MC, the lazy horse, had reoccurring gastric ulcers. Her owner started detecting subtle signs of ulcers before she went off of food. MC started showing a negative association about going to work in the arena, and her owner also identified that she was doing something a bit strange. Whenever she got on or picked up the reins, MC would lower her head really low to the ground. And it was also the first time that I met MC and her owner. So let's delve a little bit deeper into this case. So the behavior demonstrated by MC when in the video in part 3 of where her owner went and picked up the reins and she just threw her head really low to the ground. That's what I described as a passive defense response. And that horses do this when they're not coping emotionally or physically, and they kind of like alter their consciousness and zone out and go somewhere else. Therefore, how I approach horses is that I start picking through the possible sources of stress, because when a horse does that, it means they're stressed. So I categorize these types of stresses as issues that can impact a horse's understanding of what's happening to them, their motivation to perform, and their confidence at being ridden. So after eliminating obvious sources of physical discomfort, such as pain or bad saddle fit, etc., I instigated my process of taking MC's training right back to her foundation and rebuilding her, because any type of confusion or a lack of motivation or a lack of confidence in what they're doing just adds a lot of stress to the horse. It can also cause them a lot of physical discomfort as well if their responses aren't, if they're having to be hauled around or pulled on and things like that. So you eliminate all that and you rebuild them, and that can certainly reduce a lot of stress in their lives. So that's what I prescribed. So I prescribed her groundwork exercises and to monitor her ability to learn and progress in this canter, because if she didn't show learning or progression, then there was something wrong. Okay, there was something interfering with the learning. So at the time, MC's canter issues were being tackled in the saddle with an actual rider on the back. And if a horse is unbalanced in canter, this can make the task of learning to canter even more difficult. Now, MC's owner was meticulous in following my advice, and MC's canter started to improve and develop on the lunge. So MC was worked in groundwork every second day, but only for about 15 to 20 minutes. MC's owner found that she was better on the right rein, and she started being able to hold some nice relaxed strides. However, on the left rein, she tended to counterflex, and I've got some footage that I'm going to show you now. So this is the right rein, which MC's owner considered was the better rein of the two. However, I just want you to note that when you're watching it, see how when she was asked to canter, she actually had a bit of a tail swish and a bit of a negative thought went through her head there. So that's like a bit of a red flag still for me. And also see how she's carrying her head quite low and she looks quite strung out. Okay, so although, yes, the canter is definitely a lot better than what you saw in part 2, there's still some red flags here with this canter. Okay, going to go have a look now at the left canter. So this is her left canter. So this was the one that was a little bit trickier, that she was the kind of the slowest, a bit slower to progress and be able to hold the canter on this particular rein. Now, I just want you to note there are some red flags here as well. See how she's carrying her head more up. Okay, so it's not as low, she's not as strung out this way as on the right. However, she's counterflexing herself. And if you can see, she's actually looking like she's got a quarters in, so she's not traveling straight this way here. So there's some red flags that, look, there's definite progress from what it was before in that first footage that you saw of her. However, there's still things going wrong here, which when you look at a horse like that, I would say, look, still might be balanced. There's still, there's still some straightness issues and things like that, and some weaknesses within the horse. Okay, so although she's holding canter for longer and longer, and she's more relaxed about it, there's still something going on here. Okay, so during this training, MC's owner noticed some other things. She noticed MC being able to correct herself. So if she did strike off disunited or get a little bit discombobulated in her stride, she was able to think a way out of it and correct herself, whereas before it was just like a bit of a panic. So it showed that she was kind of less stressed and she can think and she could fix herself. So that was seen as an improvement. Also, MC had stopped walking away from her owner when her owner approached her in the paddock to catch her. So she was just standing still and she'd wait for her. So there was improvement in how she felt about everything. So that was positive, but still we've got some red flags going on. Okay, so this is to be continued. So see you in episode or part 4.